Today I'll show you how to make this Jesus fish decoration. The pattern is a free download from Steve Good's website, and I'll leave a link in the description. The only difficult cuts are on the top layer, cutting out the name, and I'll give you some tips to help with those. It's made from 3 layers of 1/4-inch material. So I've got 1/4-inch Baltic birch plywood. I'm using a number 5 Pegasus modified geometry blade, and I'm stack cutting 3 of these at a time. Since I'm making these for sale in a retail store, this will cut my labor cost tremendously. I'm starting with the tiniest interior cut. When I was cutting something else earlier today, I noticed that the workpiece wasn't moving as smoothly across the saw's table as it should have. That made me realize it was past time to wax the table. A little paste wax, a rag, and a few minutes later, the scroll saw table was nice and slick again. This is something you should consider doing from time to time, especially if your scroll saw has a cast iron table. I performed the same maintenance on my table saw since I already had the paste wax out. There are only a few interior cuts on this pattern, but there are a few tricky spots, so I'll give you some tips on how I made them. I had already cut that first tiny detail, and now I move to the first cut on the left side of the fish shape. I cut from that pilot hole to the nearest corner, then backed the blade to the pilot hole, spun the workpiece 180 degrees, and backed the blade to the spot where I just finished cutting. This left me with a very easy turn to begin following the cut line. The line was a gentle curve, and then I reached a semicircle, both easy cuts, but then I came to 2 right angle cuts fairly close together. Here's how I cut interior right angles. I cut to the point where the cutting direction changes, then back the blade up very slightly so that it can move freely in the saw blade curve just created. With the blade still running, I pivot the workpiece until it's aligned with the direction I want to cut next, then apply pressure to the blade and start cutting again. Almost immediately after making the second 90-degree turn, I came to an intersection with a small acute angle turn. These turns are very difficult to make and leave a sharp corner unless you use the next little trick I'm going to show you. I backed the blade up just a bit and used the curve just created, plus maybe a tiny bit of the waist area, to swivel the workpiece 180 degrees. This maneuver then allowed me to back to the directional change point and make a very easy turn to the next direction I needed to cut. The rest of the cut was a piece of cake. By the way, I should mention that I'm using a number 5 blade because I'm cutting a stack of 3 patterns. If you're only going to make one of these, you should use a number 3 blade and probably slow down the blade speed as well. This next space is narrow and is cuts with pointed ends at both the top and the bottom. I made the top corner by cutting from the pilot hole to the corner, backing to the pilot hole, swiveling the workpiece 180 degrees, backing to the corner, and thereby setting up a very easy turn. I followed the long curved line to the sharp point at the other end. If I tried to turn there, I would end up with a rounded corner rather than a sharp point. So once I reached that point, I stopped cutting, backed the blade to the top, and cut along the second long side of the shape. When I reached the bottom, the cut was complete, and there were 2 very sharp points, one at the top and one at the bottom. Once again, we have an odd shape and some sharp corners. I used the same technique, cutting from the pilot hole to a corner, backing the blade to the pilot hole, turning the workpiece 180 degrees, and then making an easy turn in the direction I needed to cut. The line took me along a gentle curve that marks part of the letter S. The following direction change is accomplished by using another little cutting trick. Rather than attempt the tight turn directly, I kept going past the intersection and cut a little way into the waist area. There, I was able to pivot the workpiece 180 degrees and come straight at the line I needed to cut next. That line took me to an intersection that terminated in a sharp point at the next change in direction. Once again, discretion won out over a bold try, and I backed the blade to the top of that space where I could easily connect to the parallel line on the left that led to the bottom. That brought me to a 90-degree corner, and I easily made it using my standard operating procedure for doing inside right angle turns. The remainder of this interior cut consisted of some straight lines, curves, and 90-degree corners. If you're new to scroll sawing, this project will give you experience with all the essential techniques you need to master. If you're experienced, this will allow you to continue honing your skills while completing a home decor item for your home or to present as a gift. There was nothing in the next two cuts that required any tips or techniques that I had not already covered. This was another easy cut, but I noticed I was getting some burning and wanted to discuss it briefly. According to the Pegasus blade chart, a number 5 blade should be able to cut material up to 1 inch thick. I also noticed some vibration, and taking that into account along with the burning, I decided that the blade was getting dull. I'll replace it right after I complete this cut. I replaced the blade and made the final interior cut, and there was nothing new to discuss. Now that all the interior cuts are completed, I moved on to the exterior cut. This one is mostly a matter of following the line and letting the blade do the work. There are some 90-degree corners, and I used the same method to cut them as I did for the interior right angle cuts. With this cut, I now have 3 top layers of the Jesus fish completed. The 2 remaining layers have no interior cuts so that they will be quick and easy. I started the exterior cut for the middle layers on the fish's tail fins, which has advantages and a disadvantage. The advantage is that this cut line is close to the edge of the workpiece, so I'm not wasting time and causing unnecessary wear and tear in the blade. The disadvantage is that when you start cutting on a curve, when you complete the cut and come back to that spot, there's inevitably a small bump. I believe this occurs because the blade is entering the cut at an angle, and when you complete the cut, the blade meets the starting point at a slightly different angle. It's not a big problem because the spot is readily accessible, and I can use a piece of sandpaper to smooth out the bump later. The ideal place to start this cut and avoid the rough spot would have been to cut from the outside to the place where the tail fins split. This is a 90-degree turn, and I've already described how to make this type of turn and leave a sharp corner. But that would have required a couple of extra inches of cutting, meaning a bit more time and blade wear, and the method I used works fine. You can choose whatever works best for you. I noticed I was still getting burning despite changing to a new blade. I'm not totally sure what's happening here. It could be that I'm running the blade too fast, that due to the nature of hardwood it burns easily, or a combination of the two factors. Whatever the reason, it is happening, and I'll need to deal with it. I should be able to sand these edges with no problems, but if they don't clean up to my satisfaction, I can always paint them. I'm debating whether to leave them unfinished or to paint them anyway. The glue up is quick and easy. I started with the middle layer. My favorite is Titebond white glue, which I purchase in gallon bottles and use to refill these 2 small bottles. This glue is water-based, so it's easy to clean up, and I use either a brush or one of my fingers to spread it out. I want to ensure the entire surface is evenly spread with glue. Once the middle layer was properly covered, I placed it on top of the bottom layer, making an effort to center it. I switched to the small glue bottle to cover the bottom of the top layer. While the middle layer was solid, the top had those cuts to form the name Jesus, so I had to set glue on some narrow strips. Once again, I used the brush to spread the glue. As soon as I'm done here, I'll wash out the brush and I'll be able to use it again. I put the top layer in place, then reached behind me to grab some spring clamps. These are just barely large enough to clamp the 3/4 thickness I have here, but I prefer to use them over F-clamps when I can. I just squeeze the clamp open, place it where I want it, and then gradually release pressure until the clamp is tight against the work. They apply straight downward pressure, which is what I want. When I use F-clamps, as I tighten them, the screw's circular motion tends to move layers out of place, so I have to be careful that doesn't happen. I'll let the glue cure overnight. It's getting late. And tomorrow I'll paint one and see how it looks before I go on to paint the other 2. I purchased this Wen disc and strip sander a while back. In fact, I made a video on it, and I'll leave a link in case you'd like to watch it. This is one of those tools you don't absolutely need, but it's a great one to have around from time to time. The most important part of the strip sander half of the tool is the metal strip behind part of the belt. This allows you to apply pressure to the abrasive belt while flattening or cleaning up a piece of wood. The sander worked well on the outside curves of the fish's sides, but the tail fins have a concave surface, and the radius was small enough that the strip sander could not work there. I had to be careful on the sides and keep the workpiece moving to prevent flat spots from forming. I also had to keep the wood moving because the sandpaper grit was fairly aggressive and I didn't want to remove much material, just enough to clean up the burn marks. As you can see, I was able to remove most of the burn marks, but some areas were inaccessible to the sander. I'll see if I can clean them up by hand with a small sheet of sandpaper, but it may take too long and/or be ineffective. I like what I've been able to accomplish so far, but I'm increasingly getting the feeling that I'll need to paint these. That will cover any lingering burn marks and the plywood edges. A few minutes in the paint booth and I finished this in a light brown, not much different from the natural color of the Baltic birch plywood. Whether you leave it natural or paint it to suit your space, this Jesus fish makes a meaningful piece of home decor or a thoughtful gift. If you found these cutting techniques and tips helpful, give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more scroll saw tips, projects, and tool talk. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next project.